tomorrow I'm going to do the 24-hour endurance movie marathon to try to get that horrible pile of to-be-watched movies out of the way. By the way, up here is a picture painted by my good friend Ivor Cole, and the name of the painting is What the Fuck? WTF. So I've got to work out what I'm doing tomorrow. I've got to get it organised. I've got to work out what I'm going to eat, when I'm going to eat it, how I stop getting bed sores sitting on the recliner couch all day. And there's a little bit of logistics to go into this. And I've also got to work out which 12 movies I'm going to watch and in which order. So this is a little bit more of a complex task than I thought it would be. But I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it tomorrow, and I'm going to then release it on the YouTube. Bye.
The next morning.
So how am I feeling this morning? Pretty good. I need to get some food. I need to get some coffee. I need to let the cats out. But I will get into the seat. I will start the movies, and I will reveal them one at a time as I'm ready to watch them. I'm not going to go, here's all the 12. But I recommend most of these movies. If there are any I don't, I will tell you.
Moments later.
Okay, the first film of the day is Pandora and the Flying Dutchman, starring James Mason and Ava Gardner. Just picked this one up a couple of days ago. Spent way too much money on it, but it's an old school 1950s romantic fantasy film, and it's a nice way to start things off. I have a companion for the first movie. It's Jack the Cat, who likes to knead my nether regions before he settles in to sit down. But he and I, and my Sasquatch warm slippers, will be watching the movie. As soon as he settles down, I will have my breakfast and get going. Time to start the movie. First movie down. Pandora and the Flying Dutchman. I really enjoyed it. It's a beautiful romantic fantasy with a tragedy in it, but it's beautifully filmed. Made in 1951. So I'm going to go to something different now. John Woo's The Killer, starring Chow Yun-fat. So I better get on with that now. Time is a-wasting, and I'm slightly behind schedule, but I'm going to watch that. And I'm also going to have, he said, reversing the camera, I'm going to have snack olives. So I'm going to have a few of those and get on with the movie. And then maybe after this movie, I'll have another coffee. Okay, so I finished watching The Killer. It's time for a little bit of a break and some air and maybe some sunlight. Then I'm going into Devil in a Blue Dress, starring Denzel Washington and Don Cheadle. Okay, so I finished Devil in a Blue Dress, which I enjoyed a lot. Hadn't seen it for a long time, but I really liked it. Carl Franklin directed it, and Don Cheadle stole the film, basically. So I'll talk a little bit more about the 12 movies at the end of this, but the next one is one of my favourites. Cyrano de Bergerac, starring Jose Ferrer. It's the only movie I ever skipped a day of school to watch, because back in the day before you could record things, it was shown on TV and I wanted to see it, so I skipped school, went down to my friend's place, and we watched this film. Jose Ferrer got an Academy Award for this one. It's really good. So I'm going to go in and watch it and continue the 24-hour marathon. So Cyrano de Bergerac is finished, and we're on to the next movie, which is Johnny Cool. If you haven't heard about this one, you should see it. Stars Henry Silver, and a shout out to the Silver and Gold guys for Silver and Gold podcast. It's a gangster film. It's really good, and it's in black and white, and very few people know about it, but Johnny Cool is cool. So that's the next one. I'm slightly ahead of schedule, but we'll see how we go. Okay, it is 4:34 p.m. and it's time for movie number 6, which is Takeshi Miike's Blade of the Immortal. I just finished Johnny Cool. This is the halfway mark in the 24-hour movie marathon, so I'm running a little ahead of schedule, which means I can cut myself a little spare time later. But this is the next one. As I said before, I'm going to do quick reviews of all the movies when I finish the 24 hours and incorporate it into the video. So here we go. Sit back, enjoy the ride. Okay, I'm halfway through this horrible marathon, which is starting to become a marathon, oddly enough. I've had to rejig some of the movies because some of them won't fit into the 2-hour window given for each movie. So the next one is an Australian film I know very little about, and it is called, he said, turning it around the right way, The Death and Life of Otto Bloom. Don't know anything about it, but I know it runs 86 minutes, and I probably need to catch up a little bit on the time so I get breaks and time enough to make coffee on this. But that's going to be the next one. That's going to be the 7th film, which means it's the first of the second half of the marathon. And if you have a look outside, it's got dark again. So it's definitely 12 hours after I started, and I'm just going to see how I go. I've got to keep looking at the right lens so I don't look like I'm looking off to one side of this. Lesson to be learned. But I better get on with it. I'm going to make myself a coffee in about an hour to get me through the night, and just keep watching movies. This is totally silly, to be honest with you, and Sally has said this to me a number of times, that this whole thing is totally bloody silly, and it is totally bloody silly, but I haven't done it before, and you should always try new challenges. So that's exactly what I'm doing. 8 o'clock at night, time for another coffee. And I'm about to watch a movie called Psychopath, which is the 8th movie of the 12. I'm losing count, so it's about 9 o'clock at night. So this is the 8th movie of the 12 that I'm watching. And there's a little bit of the screen from it. We'll see how we go. Yeah, interesting stuff. I'm still hanging in there. I have 10 hours to go. And see, I keep trying to look at the lens, but I forget where the lens is. But 10 hours to go, and I'm pretty feeling okay. It's feeling a little bit like an endurance race, and I may not watch a movie for a week from now, but one way or the other, I'm going to get through this. So I'll talk to you after this one, and on to the next one. Okay, we're up to movie number 9. It's about 10 o'clock at night. And we're up to movie number 9, which is Maigret Sets a Trap, starring Jean Gabon. Now, that film is French. It's got subtitles, but I really like Jean Gabon playing Maigret. He's probably my favourite actor in that role. Forget that Rowan Atkinson shit. This is the real deal. It dates back to the 1950s, and I am going to now enjoy it. And I'm still not tired. Okay, down to the last three now, and the next one is 1 million years BC, starring Raquel Welch and a lot of stop motion dinosaurs. I'm getting a little tired now because it's 12:21 in the morning, so a little bit of Hammer, dinosaurs and bikinis action with 1 million years BC. Time for the second last film, almost there. This one is Black Orpheus, which I recommend highly to anyone. It's got a lot of great bossa nova music in it, and I'm not looking at the lens again. And I want to show you something really cute that's happening right here, right now, at 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to just change over to the other bit of the camera. Jack the cat is sleeping on Karen the skeleton's lap, which is terribly cute. He's just curled up there and having a little snooze. The poor guy's 17 years old, but he still hangs in there. And he can sleep almost anywhere. Yep, it's the final film. It is time for the final film of the 24 hours. What can you do? And here it is. Emmanuel. I figured one thing, if I can do horror films, which I've done, if I can do musicals, which I've done, if I can do adaptations of Greek myths, there's nothing wrong with doing a film which is purely about sex. So I'm going with this one, which is an old favourite from days past. And I haven't seen it for a lot of years, so I'm going to kind of see how I feel about it now. And about the male gaze and all the rest of it. So we'll give this one a go. And then I will go to sleep, and when I get up again, I'll review all of the 12 movies. See you after Emmanuel. Okay, I've survived 23 hours of watching movies straight. My eyes are watering from looking at the screen too long, and I'm feeling quite tired now. I didn't quite get to 24 because movies didn't quite match up to a 24-hour cycle, but I got through it, and now I'm going to bed, and then I'm going to put together my thoughts on doing a marathon of 12 films in a row, how I feel about it, and how it affected me watching films and as a viewer. So, good night, everybody. I will be back soon to finalise this YouTube video. Okay, so I finished watching all 12 films. To be honest with you, it was a marathon. It was hard to do. Sitting on one couch, watching 12 movies, having little breaks in between, but still doing it, was more difficult than I expected to. But I'm going to do brief reviews of each of the 12 films, really brief, because it'll take forever if I don't. And then talk about the experience of doing all of this. Pandora and the Flying Dutchman, not versus. That'd be great. Pandora versus the Flying Dutchman. Pandora and the Flying Dutchman. Really nice light fantasy. Ava Gardner was beautiful in it. Remind me a little bit of a Powell and Pressburger movie, something like The Red Shoes. It's got that same kind of slightly away from reality feel. Loved it. The Killer with Chow Yun-Fat, John Woo's breakout film. Tremendous action. Nobody does gunplay and action like John Woo. Gotta love that. Thank you to my friend Graham for giving me this one. Devil in a Blue Dress, directed by Carl Franklin, starring Denzel Washington and Don Cheadle, who steals the movie. Great. You should read Walter Mosley's original novels for the Easy Rollin series. They are great. They tell you a lot about black history in the middle of the 20th century. Highly recommended both this and the novels. Cyrano de Bergerac. Not a very good copy because it's in the public domain and you can't get a good copy of this movie. It was done very cheaply on a low budget, but Jose Ferrer won an Academy Award for playing Cyrano. This movie gets me every time. I cry at the end of it where the tragic bit comes in. but there's sword play, there's wit, there's humour. It's got a bit of everything in there, and for the budget that this movie cost, which was minuscule, it really does deliver the goods. Johnny Cool. Not many people know this movie. It was directed by William Asher and stars Henry Silva and Elizabeth Montgomery. William Asher was married to Elizabeth Montgomery, and they together, a year or two after this came out, made the TV series Bewitched, and her career was never quite the same again. But in this one, she's great. Henry Silva's really good. There are tons and tons of kind of Las Vegas celebrity Rat Pack cameos in this one. It's a kind of weird movie that you really should see. Blade of the Immortal, Takeshi Miike's 100th film. Terrific samurai sword play, supernatural aspects. It doesn't go anywhere you think it's going to go, and there's a hell of a lot of blood. You've got to love that. The Death and Life of Honor Bloom, an Australian film. It's a kind of a mockumentary about a man who is living time in reverse. I'm not going to explain it any more than that, because to explain it too much would be a spoiler for the movie. But it was surprisingly how much I got engaged with this film, and it took twists and turns and plot devices that I really didn't expect. And when a movie surprises you, it's always a lovely thing. I've got to love that. The Psychopath, 1968, an Amicus film. It's kind of like an English giallo with Patrick Wymark, John Standing, and Judy Huxtable, who was married to Peter Cook, in it. Really like this one because it scared the fuck out of me when I was a little kid. There's a scene right at the end which is very kind of creepy. It doesn't work entirely for me as an adult, but it is a kind of English giallo. So, giallo, sorry, not giallo. Giallo is plural, giallo is singular. It's an English giallo in a sense, and you should check it out. Maigret Sets a Trap. Jean Gabon was the ultimate best person to play Detective Inspector Jules Maigret in movies. He did 3 of these, and they are all great. They're mid-century. This one's 1959, and the plot is great. The police investigation is great. These Maigret movies with Jean Gabon set the template for things like Columbo and a lot of other police procedurals that have come up on TV. Good stuff. 1 million years BC, not so good. Raquel Welch in a bikini, yeah, there is that, but it's not historic at all. It's got cave people and dinosaurs together. It really is a piece of shit. Black Orpheus. I wish I had been more awake for this one. I love this movie. It's got terrific samba music by Antonio Carlos Jobim and Luis Bonfar. It's a story of Orpheus and Eurydice told in the favelas of Rio in 1959. And it's just the best. You should see this. It's visually beautiful. The story is lyrical. It's got a tragedy in it, but it ends on a note of hope. Really love this movie. If you haven't seen Black Orpheus and you haven't heard the soundtrack to Black Orpheus, you really should. And finally, Emmanuel. Very pretty. It's almost at times like a travelogue of Thailand in 1974. Yes, it's got the erotic stuff and it's all filmed very beautifully, but the sexual politics of it left me a bit cold. I've changed since I first saw this movie back in the 70s. Been revisiting it. While there were some lovely scenes, I think that the way that the character of Emmanuel is used by men sucks. So, what did I learn from doing 23 hours of 12 movies non-stop? First off, I still love cinema. That's a good thing. I really do love movies, and I love a wide range of movies. I could pick 12 more out of the list and 12 more out of the pile again, and I would still have a good time. But there gets to be a law of diminishing returns. Doing 24 hours of movie watching is not easy. I didn't get bored, but I got a bit stir crazy. There were times when I got up and walked around and did weights and put the kettle on while I was watching and all that kind of stuff, because we're not meant to be that sedentary. One of the joys after I did this, apart from getting some sleep, which I got about 7 hours sleep after I did the 23 hours, is getting out and about in the open air, which is why I'm filming this bit in the open air. Having the wind in my hair and seeing the clouds and the trees and being outside of that one room was really great. The other thing is that it was difficult to get through the last few films because you're tired, and there are movies like Black Orpheus that I wanted to give my full attention to, and my full attention was 6 hours before that. So it is a difficult thing to do. Will I do it again? Probably not. I may do something slightly different, where I go and see how many movies I can see in the cinema in one day, because movie cinemas locally at least open about 10 o'clock in the morning and finish about, the last session's about 9:30 at night. So what I might do is see if I can see 4 or 5 films in one day at a cinema, but I wouldn't do the 24-hour again. If other people want to do it, please go ahead. You're going to pick an entirely different lot of movies. You're going to have different reactions to me. All of that's going to be fine. But for me, it was something I did for the YouTube channel. It's something I did to see if I could do it. I was pushing myself and challenging myself. I'm 61 years old. I wanted to see whether I could do it. I've been going to the gym for a year, so I'm somewhat fitter than I was before. Still not great, but I am fitter than I was a year ago, and I got more endurance, and I got through it, which is the great thing. And I didn't need to do silly amounts of coffee. I think I had, over the 23-hour period, 4 espresso cups of coffee, and that was it. And I'm kind of glad that I did that, because too much coffee can jangle my nerves. There was a time last year where I did, by accident, because I was in Sydney visiting family, 8 cups of coffee in a day, and it left me in a state where I couldn't sleep. So I drove 900 kilometers home after a full day, and I was awake all of the time. So I didn't want to get into that kind of mental state. I didn't want to mess myself up with the coffee. But I'm glad I did this. It was an interesting thing. It was a challenging thing. Much love to Sally, my wife, for indulging me in this. The fact that she gave me the space to go mad and just sit on the couch and watch movies all through the night and all through the day. I really appreciate her cutting me that time.